Welcome. Today, we are going to get into a really critical topic for any foreign company that's operating in Japan, and that's how you pay your directors. Now, it sounds simple, right? But believe me, getting this wrong can create a massive, and I mean massive, tax headache that is totally avoidable.
So let's say you've had an amazing year and you're thinking, hey, let's reward the leadership team. But before you even think about approving that director bonus, you need to just stop. The rules for directors in Japan are a completely different ballgame from the rules for regular employees. And they are, let's just say, incredibly strict.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with what I call Japan's director pay trap. Then we'll break down the key differences between director and employee pay. After that, we'll uncover the really painful double punch tax problem. But don't worry, we'll then show you the smart way to pay bonuses, cover the special rules for directors who don't live in Japan, and then wrap it all up with the key takeaways.
Okay, let's dive right into the core of the issue. The whole reason we're even having this conversation is because Japanese tax law looks at money paid to directors and money paid to employees in two fundamentally different ways. It's not the same thing at all.
This right here, this lays it all out. For a regular employee, things are pretty flexible. Their pay, their bonus, it's a labor cost, a straightforward deductible expense for the company. But for a director, whoa, it's a whole different story. The tax office sees any variable pay as a potential way to sneak profits out of the company. So to stop that, the rules are super rigid, and the default setting, you could say, is that a director's bonus is not a real business expense.
So to really get a handle on these rules, we've got to get the lingo right. Because in the eyes of the tax authorities in Japan, there are two and only two distinct types of director pay.
First up, we have役員報酬. This basically means director's remuneration. The easiest way to think about this is as the director's fixed, regular monthly salary. The key word here is consistency. For the company to be able to deduct this as an expense, it has to be the exact same amount paid like clockwork every single month of the business year.
And then there's yakuin shoyo, the director's bonus. Now, this is pretty much everything else. Any payment that isn't that fixed monthly amount. And folks, this is the danger zone. The default rule is that this payment is not a deductible expense for your company.
And that brings us to, well, the most critical part of this whole explainer. What happens if you get this wrong? It's a really painful consequence, and it's got a name that's pretty viewed.
If you just go ahead and pay a director a bonus without following the very strict official procedures, your company gets smacked with something called the double punch. And it is just as painful as it sounds. A 1-2 combination of taxes that can be unbelievably costly.
The Japanese term for this is ofukubinta, which literally means a round-trip slap, and it's the perfect way to describe it. Here's how it works. The company pays the bonus, but it can't deduct that payment as an expense, so its profit looks higher than it actually is, and it pays corporate tax on that money. That's slap number one. Then, the director receives that bonus, and for them, it's taxable income, so they have to pay their personal income tax on it. That's slap number two. The very same pot of money just got taxed twice.
Let's put some real numbers to this so you can see just how damaging it is. Imagine your company pays out a 10 million yen bonus. From the company's perspective, that payment is not deductible, so its taxable profit is now 10 million yen higher, which means it pays roughly 3.5 million yen in extra corporate tax. Ouch. Meanwhile, the director gets the 10 million yen, and that whole amount is personal income, so they're paying their own income taxes on it. It's just a huge tax inefficiency, all because of one little procedural mistake.
Okay, so after all that doom and gloom, you're probably asking, how in the world do we avoid this trap? How can you legally pay a director a bonus that actually is a deductible expense for the company? Well, thankfully there is a way, but it requires some serious planning way ahead of time.
The solution is this system called Jizen Kakute Torokede Kuyo. Now I know it's a mouthful, but the name literally translates to predetermined reported salary, and that tells you exactly what you need to do. You have to decide on the bonus in advance and report it to the tax office before you pay it. The process is rigid, but it's crystal clear. It boils down to 4 non-negotiable steps. Step 1, decide the exact payment date and the exact amount of the bonus. Step 2, get this plan formally approved in a shareholder meeting. Step 3, file the official paperwork with the tax office by the very strict deadline. And finally, step 4, you have to execute that plan with absolute perfection. Pay the exact amount on the exact date. There is literally zero room for error.
And speaking of deadlines, they are absolutely crucial.
you have to file the paperwork by the earlier of 2 dates. It's either 1 month after your shareholder meeting or 4 months after the start of your company's fiscal year. So, for example, if your business year kicks off on April 1st, your absolute latest date of file is going to be somewhere around the end of July. You really have to be on top of this.
And let me just say this again, because this is where so many people trip up. Perfection is not optional, it is mandatory. If you file a plan that says you will pay 1 million yen on December 15th, you must pay exactly 1 million yen on December 15th. If you pay 999,999 yen by accident, or you pay on December 16th because of a holiday you forgot about, the entire bonus, all of it, becomes non-deductible, and you are right back in that double punch territory.
Now, just when you thought you had it all figured out, there's another layer of complexity, especially for international companies. What happens if your director doesn't actually live in Japan?
I want you to burn this number into your brain, 20.42%. This is the flat income tax withholding rate that applies to any payment, salary, bonus, doesn't matter, that a Japanese company pays to a director who is a non-resident.
So why does this number matter? Well, the logic is pretty simple. Because the money is coming from a Japanese company, it's considered Japan-sourced income. And that means it's subject to Japanese tax, even if your director lives in New York or London and never even steps foot in the country. Your company in Japan is legally required to withhold that 20.42% right at the source. Now, tax treaties can help prevent double taxation, but they don't just happen automatically. You have to actively file special paperwork to get those benefits.
Okay, I know we've covered a lot of pretty technical ground here, so let's just zoom out for a second and boil this all down to the most important points you absolutely need to remember from this whole explainer.
If you walk away with nothing else, remember these golden rules. First, your default assumption should always be that a director's bonus is non-deductible. Second, the penalty for messing up is the painful double punch. Third, your way out is to file that predetermined reported salary notice well in advance. Fourth, when you execute the plan, it has to be perfect. And finally, if your director lives outside Japan, you've got that 20.42% withholding tax to deal with.
Look, at the end of the day, this entire system is designed with one single goal in mind: to stop companies from just arbitrarily moving profits around. And because of that, it is totally unforgiving of mistakes. A tiny administrative error can have a huge financial fallout for both your company and your directors. So the real final takeaway is this: always get professional tax advice before you even start to structure director pay in Japan. Planning ahead isn't just a good idea here, it's everything.